Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. TVD gave his thoughts on Shannon Dawson as a offensive coordinator, amongst other things. And also, what do we make of the seemingly news that Jason Taylor is not just coaching the defensive ends, but he's coaching the entire defensive line? Right. So, TVD spoke. He said some very interesting things. I thought there were some things that I wanted to kind of comment on, right? So obviously elected to come back for another year. He had options. He had the option of going to the league. He had the option of transferring, and as also he has the option that he opted, excuse me, to select, which was coming back for another year. Now, this is just me. I think that transferring could have been the easy thing to do, but with people rumoring that TVD was NIL deals added up to roughly maybe $1 million. We know that he got the BMW, through a particular NIL deal. I think that you weren't going to get that in the open market, right? It's a kind of the Janet Jackson song, "Whatever You Done For Me Lately." And lately, from a grander scheme, TVD hasn't done anything based on what the 2022 season suggested. So I think it was probably just in the best interest, just from familiarity, continuity, as well as NIL. It just made more sense to stay at the University of Miami. I know some people were speaking about relationships and stuff like that. I'm not I'm not the one to talk about that. But obviously, if you do have a significant other and, they're at the University of Miami, then, hey, makes it even better. Just stay there. And based on the year that he just had, the NFL, that just was not going to be an option. Weren't going to be a combine invite, any of those particular things. I don't think he would have been eligible to play in the Senior Bowl, or maybe he would have. This is his fourth year, so this is going into his fourth year, so he wouldn't have been able to play in the Senior Bowl. So that option made absolutely no sense at all either, right? So on to some of the things that he spoke about. He spoke about Shannon Dawson bringing more energy, more up-tempo, some no-huddle things, some things that we kind of saw in the Red Lashley. I just can't help but to think what a second year on the Red Lashley would have done for not just Tyler Van Dyke, but for the entire offense. So hopefully maybe we got this little bump in the road that was last year, and we get a continuation of it. Because TVD made mention, pretty much everyone runs the same things. It just comes down to communication. And just from just a little snippet, I didn't hear it. I read the transcript. It wouldn't necessarily shock me if Shannon Dawson would be one of those type of coordinators that, if we're running some similar plays that we ran under Red Lashley, that TVD may say, well, hey, just for familiarity with some of the older guys, this is what Red called it. And Shannon Dawson may say, okay, well, if that's comfortable for you, that's what we'll do. And those are just signs of of good coaches. He also made mention that says, hey, he doesn't criticize us and all of that stuff. So that is that is so interesting to me, because we had instances, right? We had our former offensive coordinator seemingly throw Tyler Van Dyke under the bus by saying that you didn't even have the numbers to your wide receivers. And my thing was this: you don't have to have people's phone numbers. This is not 1998. This is not 2005. Like, everyone has social media, Instagram. I can DM you and say, hey, want to go throw? Hey, want to go lift? Hey, want to go watch film? So I'm not necessarily saying that he was wrong for saying TVD should have had those guys' phone numbers. But if you want to get in touch with your teammates, my God, I don't have to have your phone number. I can DM you. That's what many people say. Like, to me, I think the phone number is getting to that particular point now with social media. Like, it's irrelevant only for close friends and maybe family members, right? Everybody else, hit me on the DM. We can have a whole conversation, right? Don't criticize us. Now, this is what's interesting, because there was a brigade of Kane fans that said this is what these guys need. They don't need to be soft. They don't need to be pampered. They don't need to be made to feel good. This is life. Let's be hard. That was ineffective. And it was so ineffective to the point that guys are now going around and saying, well, see, we got guys that are young and energetic and hungry and ready to prove something. You know, no one's talking about that needs to be drill sergeant type of stuff anymore. I still remember the whole blow up with Keyshawn Smith and everyone upset with Keyshawn Smith because he simply talks to his mother. It still is mind-boggling to me. It's not like he tweeted it, but I don't know, man. When people are in that, when they have ingested so much Kool-Aid that when it's time for the Kool-Aid to be vomited back out, they won't vomit it. They'll keep swallowing it and keep swallowing the Kool-Aid because it's still, it's still good, but now y'all can vomit the Kool-Aid out. Y'all got another cup of Dawson Kool-Aid and Guidry Kool-Aid and all that stuff like that. So, hey, it is what it is. But I do like that he did say that, right? Spoke about Kobe Young. Said Kobe Young is, fast. He's growing. He's getting there. And there was a poster on 247. Again, another guy that I respect. His name slips my mind. But he made mention that he said, man, you know what? Looking at Kobe Young, we got to realize Kobe Young was a guy that got here in the summer. Wasn't necessarily able to get with the playbook the way that it needed to be. And the flashes that we saw of him, they were good flashes. And so we should expect good things from him. And I kind of looked at it and I said, you know what? You're right. Because this is what's interesting. People have put a ceiling on Kobe Young, right? Now, obviously, Jacoby George is my guy, right? I'm not going to make any bones about it. I'm biased to Jacoby George. But I'm not going to sit up here and be so biased to Jacoby George to the point that I'm just going to overlook Kobe Young and what Kobe Young brought. He brought that big play potential. Now, some people have said, oh, well, he'll be a Darrell Langham, right? But again, I think when people say things like that, you're putting those artificial glass ceilings on guys. For example, I remember when Herb Waters was here. And I think when Herb Waters got to the University of Miami, I think Herb Waters was maybe like a 4'7", 4'6" guy. And when Herb Waters left, Herb Waters was a legit 4'4" guy. So my thing is this. All of the things, because I don't like to cast judgment on guys too soon. I like to say, okay, by third year, okay, you are what you are, right? Freshman year, okay, we see some flashes. Second year, okay, let's see if we got something here. So I think some people have prematurely said that he's a Darrell Langham. And I'm not going to say that because Kobe Young could leave here running sub 4.5, could increase his vertical, increase his explosiveness. Because I know I saw people last year was saying TVD was getting locked on to Kobe Young. And my thing is this is like, look, we see this in the NFL. Now, I want to preface this by saying, look, I'm not saying Kobe Young is an NFL receiver, but I'm talking about a point. I'm putting it in context. We're talking about the continuity between a wide receiver and his quarterback. When the Cincinnati Bengals line up to play and Joe Burrow needs it, we know who he's looking for. He's looking for Chase. When Kirk Cousins needs it, we know he's looking for Jefferson. When Aaron Rodgers needed it, he was looking for Devontae Adams. And we can go through all of the pantheon greats of NFL quarterbacks, and if they had a guy, the guy, that was their guy. Whether that guy was double covered or what. Because what they feel is a 50-50 ball is really a 75-25. 50% my guy going to win, 25% is going to be a pass interference call. And then the other 25% would be an interception, throw out of bounds, deflection, something that doesn't benefit us. But it's a 75%. So I'm going to be very interested to see the growth of Kobe Young, you know what I'm saying, moving forward, because I'm not going to say he's a Daryl Langham until I see that, because Daryl Langham was Daryl Langham from year one until he finally left the University of Miami. Had a great leaving. Obviously caught the big touchdown for us to defeat Florida State for the first time in some years. So I'm not gonna sit up here and say Kobe Young is Daryl Langham. I'm not gonna do that, because people have affinities to certain guys, right? Offensive line. He spoke good about the offensive line, especially Matt Lee. He spoke about that Matt Lee was smart. And again, I'm not that guy in terms of just pretending like I know every single thing about football, but I have heard that if you have a center that understands what's going on, that makes the job of the quarterback just that much easier. It makes it just that much easier. And that seems to be what we have gotten in Matt Lee. Now, again, still got to put the feet to the fire, but as it stands right now, that's good chemistry right there. That's some good chemistry. So, obviously, of course, he spoke about, obviously, the year didn't go the way that he wanted it to go. And, your career is not always going to be on an upward trajectory. Sometimes you got to take a dip, and, all the things that he should say. And I'm going to end it on this, well, the TVD part of it, where he said he and Coach Cristobal have been tight through this entire process. And I could be interpreting it wrong, but I look at it to say that, because I said it all last year, after the Texas A&M game, I started to question, why are we taking the ball out of Tyler Van Dyke's hand? Why are we taking the ball out of a superstar quarterback? Right now, obviously, of course, after last year, superstar, we can put that up in the air for whatever, but why are you taking the ball out of his hands? And so I think when he says that he and Coach Cristobal have been tight throughout this entire process, lends me to believe that maybe Mario may have went to Tyler and said, you know what, hey, I got a star right here. This is not a Justin Herbert situation, because Justin Herbert, I came in, I won 9 games first year, then we went and won 12, so my method worked. This year I go 5-7. So maybe I need to go out and ask my quarterback, hey, what are you comfortable with? And hey, I like what Coach Lashley was doing. Obviously, we can't get Coach Lashley, but maybe if we could get somebody in that realm. Hey, you want to be a legendary Miami coach? Hey, listen to what some of the players want. But that's the way that I took it, right? Could be wrong, but that's the way that I took it when he said that he and Coach Cristobal have been tight throughout the entire process. So, moving on, Coach Joe. Now, I wasn't necessarily a big, huge fan of Coach Joe being hired. I know some people, again, going back to that ingestion of Kool-Aid, that, well, if Mario hired him and he worked at Oregon or whatever, woo-de-woo, I don't care about that, man. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, Coach Joe was hired by Willie Taggart. At the end of the day. That's who hired him. Mario Cristobal retained him. That's what that is. So the value that he had out there on the West Coast, probably great. You get the Polynesian kids to come in and want to be a part of the program. That's great. But in the University of Miami, are we really going to say that is that very important that you're on staff for maybe 1-2 kids every 2 or 3 cycles? I don't think so. And at the end of the day, you're the defensive line coach. And I know people will say, well, he was key in these particular recruitments. Again, people move the goalposts wherever they want to move the goalposts to, right? Whenever someone does not want to concede defeat, they will move the goalpost. We can't sit up here and say that Mario is the reason that we got that linebacker class, and then you turn around and say, but no, it was Coach Joe's the reason that we got Jaden Wayne and Francis Marigold. No. Stop moving the goalpost. Because if you want to move the goalpost over there, then give Charlie Strong credit for getting the linebackers. But you don't want to do that because Charlie Strong is no longer here and Coach Joe is. But I digress. With that being said, hopefully Jason Tight does a good job. At the end of the day, I think that too much was made about Coach Joe being a You got Kayvon Thibodeau, and he lived up to it. But no other defensive linemen were drafted. So, I mean, what are we talking about here, man? What are we talking about? What are we talking about? But I know what it is. The defensive line played well. So Coach Joe did well. The linebackers played well. But again, it's one of them things. But I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into that argument with people. But the thing of it is if you're gonna keep it a buck over there, keep it a buck over here too. And with that being said, if Coach Joe is no longer the defensive line coach for the University of Miami, I'm not going to lose a wink of sleep because I feel like that Jason Taylor will be better. Instant credibility, in my opinion, on the recruiting trail. I know that's something that Coach Hayes talked about because the first thing we talk about is that Hall of Fame thing. But I do think that brings instant credibility on the trail. I think that he probably will appeal to more kids than maybe Coach Joe would. But again, I still see Coach Joe has a contingency of fans. I saw someone say he was still very much involved in some 2024 recruits. I mean, and this is no joke, but it is a joke. Heck, I could go talk to some 2024 recruits. I can go talk to some kids. I mean, so what exactly does that even mean? What does that mean? But anyway, man, like, share, subscribe, and comment, man. And man, it's all about the you, baby. I'm out.